Perfect.
Okay, great. Cool. Well, thanks for joining, everyone. This is our first group conversation from the Learning and Development team. We have some slides prepared, and I recorded a YouTube video yesterday if you want to check it out. But we get right to the questions. Darva, I saw you're on the call. Do you want to voice your question?
Sure, thank you. I did take a look at the slides and look great. But I did have a question about some of the metrics that I saw on the slides. It would be great to see the L&D reporting Google Sheet for my organization. So I was wondering if that would be available to managers.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the L&D reporting Google Sheet right now is much more of a like GitLab team-wide reporting and metrics that we're looking at to see what the entire team is doing. But department level is a really great idea, and it's something that we're working on. And I think that we have some ways that we can get that started for your team. So we do reporting in two different places. So we have some reporting on GitLab Learn, which is for the internal content that we've created, like the GitLab 101 certification or the DIB certification, for example. And then we also have LinkedIn Learning reporting that we can do similarly by department. So I put in a doc. I guess I have a question back for you. What kind of metrics are you interested in seeing for your team?
So I don't have the presentation up, but I liked all the metrics in there. Definitely how many people are taking courses so that I can determine over time, because it's an OKR for us to support career development, employee development. So I can see over time, like last month versus this month or 3 months ago, just how many people are taking the courses. But as much data that I can get, the better. There's no bad data.
Okay, that sounds great. So then I think then like an action item that I would ask for you to do is, and I linked it in the doc, is to submit an access request for this tool called EdGraph, which is what we're using right now for reporting. And what I can do is start to build out a dashboard of reports that are specific to your department. And we can kind of start from there. And also, I'll probably use you and your team as a bit of a guinea pig to do this because we haven't done this specifically for other departments yet. So, and then JC, in terms of the LinkedIn reporting, I didn't know if you had anything to add about what kind of department level data we can see on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so right now I just have it set up as like kind of like the overarching group. So like I have a people group, engineering, product. I haven't like really made the smaller groups yet. But if you're wanting that, I can make a group and have you be a sub admin over it, and you can pull data on like what courses team members in your group are taking.
Okay, that'd be great. So there are no privacy concerns, right? Right.
I would just make you an, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I would just make you an admin over like your specific group. I wouldn't like add you over like all of product or all of engineering.
Okay, thanks.
And the same would go for EdGraph too. I would just share dashboards based on your team, and then that access to EdGraph requires manager approval as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Julia, are you on? I see you have the next question.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you. I've received some feedback from some different members in the security organization that while everyone's really excited about the redesign of the growth and development benefit, the financial burden associated with it can be a little too much for our team members to carry for a long period of time. So to add some context to this, within the security organization, a lot of the training that we are doing is highly technical training with specific security focused training providers like SANS, as opposed to traditional higher education, continuing education type of work. And that type of training is generally over a 1 to 2 week period, and generally something that you purchase very far in advance because the seats go very quickly. So we're wondering if first we're interpreting the new policy correctly, and that it's a 50% max upfront coverage for that training. And if there's any type of exception, depending on the type of training that the team members are taking, that we might be able to ask for a full coverage at time of purchase instead of at completion of training.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Julia. So just to give some context too, like L&D, we just took over this process from Total Rewards, so we're still trying to get spun up on it. But and I don't see anybody from Total Rewards on the call, but right now the policy indicates that we can pay up to 50% of those costs to, hopefully alleviate the burden of having to pay that all up front. But I think what we could do is we could work with Total Rewards on getting that updated, because this is something we haven't heard just from security. It's also been with a couple other teams and team members. I think it makes sense. It's just, I think we have to have some, I guess, proof of that you've actually attended the workshop or done the course. Like right now, it's just the transcript or the tuition reimbursement, academic course completion. That's a little more difficult to do for a workshop. So like, we just need to make sure people actually attend and do this and fulfill their obligation once they've been reimbursed. So hopefully, I don't know, Carol or anybody, if they have any follow-up to that.
Yeah, no, I think that covers it, and appreciate you bringing up the question. And Josh, you've obviously heard it from others as well. So I would say, to your point, let's take it back, have a look and see what we can do that works for our team members, but also works fiscally for the company as well. And we can find what the next iteration is.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. A follow-up question to that or maybe perhaps more of a statement to that is, in a lot of cases, these trainings offer what they call early bird specials. So if you purchase it 6 months in advance, then you get $1,000 to $2,000 discount. It's usually pretty significant. And my fear is, as a result of the policy as it exists today, individuals may not want to take advantage of those discounts because they don't want to carry the cost for that long period of time. So we might see like right before purchases with some of these trainings, which will make them a bit more expensive.
Yeah, and I would say, for the under 1,000 courses, those can be expensed right away. But for over 1,000, I think getting the process started as early as possible, making sure you can get all the approvals. We recommend at least 30 days in advance. But I think given the early bird specials can sometimes be 6 months or in a year in advance, it probably makes sense to go hand in hand with the update for reimbursement sooner. So. Yeah, great points, but definitely something top of mind for a lot of folks. Thanks for bringing this up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. Christy, I see you just typed a question in the doc. Do you want to voice it?
I did. So I'm excited. Towards the end of the deck, it talks about the fact that we're revamping the GitLab 101 and 201 certifications, which I'm really pleased to see. I've taken them. I think I've actually taken them a couple of times and enjoyed them, but they were also pretty simple. It was stuff that if you've worked at GitLab for 6 months, it's stuff you already know. I would love to see us cover more complex topics. I know from my UX department, we're really pushing people to truly understand the breadth of how the product works. And especially in R&D, you can get so locked into your own little silo of the stage group that you work in. I personally would find it beneficial to have training on more of the product. So what are the plans around that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can talk to 2 points, and I see Josh is typing in there too. So one piece that is on one of the slides that we're really excited about is that our team is hiring another or a instructional designer. So this person, one of their first actions or projects when they join our team is going to be helping us to create more technical training like this. So we've definitely heard this feedback that, GitLab 301 or additions to 101 and 201 to make them more technical is something that people want. Another thing that we've also heard, and maybe this is what you're speaking to as well, but just like different terminology. I've heard a lot about, I need more training about GitLab, how to use it for project management. And so an example of that is the women's TMRG in collaboration with the community team is doing I think it's called Beyond Code meetup series about using GitLab Beyond Code. And so that's something that our team wants to leverage to be able to kind of capture some of those use cases about how people are using GitLab and turn those into trainings. So yeah, those are 2 points. I see Josh, you typed some stuff in there too. I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, no, great points, Samantha. I agree with all of them. And, I would say also, Christy, I think, right now, L&D, we're only a team of 3 and we're hiring for 2 more team members. We've got a lot of requirements and I guess ask and request on building different content on different skill sets. Using GitLab for GitLab day to day is a huge one. We're hiring for that role. But I would also say, I think having teams, really own what they want to see as well, and working with us on designing and developing that content for what you want to see. So it's kind of doing it in partnership in terms of designing that training together, if that makes sense. So,
it does. And Samantha, to answer the question that you kind of obliquely asked. So yeah, Beyond Code, cool. Personally, for my team, I'm actually more interested in the technical content, but I think both would be valuable. Josh, the challenge my team would have is that we might want the training, but this is why we want it, is we're not the experts. So we couldn't really partner with you to develop it. But I think, I start thinking about like even marketing. If marketing had a really good sense of how this whole product fits together and what are the intricacies when you start getting into the more technical areas, like I think we would just up-level our product design, we would up-level how we're talking to customers, but it's going to have to be folks who have subject matter expertise actually helping to develop that content.
Yeah, I wonder, just to follow on to that, I wonder where would the best place to start with that would be? Like who are the right people?
Probably product managers would be where I would start. I'm not saying that they're the ones who have to drive it, but if you were to ask them, they'd probably get you to the right people. But that's my shot in the dark guess. That's where I would start if I were in your shoes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Christy.
Great. We can move on to the next one. Darva, do you want to voice your question?
Yes, I just wanted to follow up with what Christy said. How do you all decide what training you're going to develop? Do you do it based on surveys? Is there an option for people to submit ideas and maybe crowdsource them and figure out what's most useful for everyone?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of the decisions that we make about where to focus come from the engagement survey. And so I know we use the results of that to, drive the decisions that we're making about what and why we're doing. I'm not sure. I don't know, JC or Josh, maybe you can speak to a different way that we prioritize what kind of content we're creating, what courses we're creating next.
Just to add really quick, along with the engagement, sorry, Josh, along with the engagement survey, we just did the GitLab Learn and LinkedIn Learning survey. And one of the questions was, what content do you want to see? And so we do have a list of like what team members are wanting to see training wise. So I think we'll use that list as well, but you can go ahead now, Josh.
Oh, no, great point, JC. I was going to say, I also think too, Darva, it's the larger strategic priorities of the organization. So for example, like manager enablement, upskilling managers on how to lead and manage all remote teams and really help aspiring managers fulfill that role as well. That's like top of mind for GitLab leadership and e-group. So that's just one of a handful of topics, but it's also partnering with the e-group to understand the strategic priorities of the organization and what they really want to focus on.
Okay, thanks.
I don't see any other questions in the doc, but wanted to give a minute in case there's anyone on who just wants to ask a question out loud. Cool. Okay, well, If there's no more questions, feel free to add them to the doc later if they come to mind, or you can always reach out to us in the Learning and Development Slack channel, and we can follow up with any questions that you have. But otherwise, hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.